It is now 3 months since the catastrophic events of September 6. In spite of the devastation, progress is being made in the recovery process. The government and people of the British Virgin Islands have so far received tremendous support and assistance from regional and international governments and organizations to aid in the territory's recovery. Here, residents continue to receive relief supplies as they put their lives back together. Significant efforts are being made to restore essential services and provide a normal way of living for the territory's residents. In the area of electricity, it is estimated that 90% of the transmission and distribution grid was destroyed and approximately 12,000 poles, 400 miles of conductor cables, 2,200 pole-mounted transformers, and 3,500 streetlights were damaged. Government is rebuilding the electrical grid, and power is being restored to homes and businesses with the assistance of local, regional, and international crews of linesmen and electricians. To date, approximately 40% of the electrical infrastructure has been restored on Tortola, 50% on Virgin Gorda, and 90% on Anegada. Mr. Henry Creehey is a Deputy General Manager of the BVI Electricity Corporation.
We have had help from our colleagues in other utilities around the region, including from islands such as Aruba, St. Vincent, Grenada, Belize, St. Lucia, Bermuda, Cayman Islands, and of course we have had some temporary workers locally who we've also employed, who've all come together and been making this restoration effort pretty successful, very successful so far. In addition to those persons who've been working with us, today we're happy to welcome a team from Canada. A contractor called Ballard is going to be adding to the restoration effort. Ballard has been sponsored by the government of the United Kingdom. They are sponsoring 27 more utility workers to come and assist us, and we will place them to work on 2 of the distribution feeders which have not been started as yet, which will leave only 1 more feeder which has not been started, and we should be starting on that very shortly after that. We estimate that these crews on the ground so far will help us to reduce our efforts, our time to restore the whole territory.
The Water and Sewage Department is also doing its part in restoring potable water to residents. According to manager Mrs. Parlene Scatliff-Leonard, the department is facing several challenges as it seeks to restore water throughout the territory.
Well, with regards to our water infrastructure, we did receive some damages on Tortola to our storage tanks at Balsam Gut. We also received damages at Sabot Hill. Fort Hill has damages. We also had some damages at the Mare Cove Reservoir. That's more of a fiberglass reservoir, so that has been repaired somewhat since then. We did have a little situation at Zion Hill, but that has been resolved somewhat as well. Besides that, our pipe work, we had a few main lines that were impacted. Those would have been those that were not buried too deep. Most of the lines damaged, of course, would have been our service lines, because those would be the ones that would have been exposed to the wind and the storms and the rain and so forth. So we had quite a bit of work to do on our service lines. Those would be the lines going to our customers. So the team, the technical team, has done quite a bit of work with that, along with my meter readers. They have been excellent with that. But they, as usual, they always, step up to the plate when they need to. So we had some real quick turnaround times with that. With regards to our sewage system, not much damage except, without power, you cannot pump the sewage and you would have some overflows and what have you not. In Kindergarten B, we did lose all of our stations. So right now we are daily utilizing a few trucks. We are pumping the sewage in Kindergarten B. It's costing us, but we are working as speedily as we can to get those stations up and running on their regular power.
Residents and visitors to the territory can also access other services, including that of healthcare. This is the Peebles Hospital, constructed to withstand Category 5 hurricanes and earthquakes. The building sustained minor damage during the passage of the hurricanes and continues to function. Chief Executive Officer Mrs. Paula Chester Cumberbatch speaks about the operations at the health institution following the hurricanes.
Immediately after the first hurricane, our focus would have been on dealing with the surge of patients, persons who would have been coming in to be treated. So the first 3 days would have seen the maximum number of persons at that point, and then of course gradually the numbers would have subsided. So our emergency department was very, very busy. By day 3 or 4, we would have activated our Road Town Clinic to take some of the strain off of the emergency department. So the most severe cases were seen at the emergency department, and persons who needed minor attention in terms of sutures, minor lacerations, etc., would have been dealt with at the clinic. I remember overall we were seeing upwards of 200 persons or so at the emergency department per day. At our clinic, we were averaging 100 persons coming in per day, and of course at this time we are back to our normal figures of 30 persons roughly on an average coming into the emergency department on a daily basis.
Mrs. Cumberbatch said an assessment was done of the damage to health centers in the various communities.
Some services that we have resumed and that were affected somewhat and we have resumed back to capacity would be our immunization. Audiology services are back up at Virgin Gorda. Our physiotherapy services are back out in our outpatient department. Our outpatient department itself with our doctors, those are back up and functioning. Some of our other services would be community mental health, a very big one, very much needed one at this time. They would have been out there doing a lot of work, starting with our children and the resumption of happiness program. So that was a big success, and it continues. So their outreach, helping persons cope with the tragedy that affected us here in the BVI.
The hospital has also received 2 top-of-the-line ambulances, bringing the total fleet to 3, as one was severely damaged during the hurricanes. Notwithstanding the extensive damage to schools across the territory, students are continuing their education, some in temporary facilities. One such school is the Elmore Stout High School. This is the school after the passage of the hurricane. Principal Sandy Underhill speaks about the operations at the new location.
I am sure that everybody can agree, after having looked at our campus on September 7th, that most people, students, parents, and the wider community never thought that we would be able to start school so soon. But thanks to the support and direction of the Ministry of Education, we are now here, and we are thankful and grateful and happy to say that things are going. They are going extremely well. We are again forever grateful. We are here in our new location. Our numbers are about 1,200, which is quite a lot more than we thought we would have in our enrollment. Everybody knows that we're on 2 shifts from 8 to 12 with our junior school, grades 7 through 9, and then we have senior school from 1 to 5 p.m., grades 10 through 12. I am not going to say it is easy. It is very difficult. As you know, we are in a commercial area where places like Right Way and the financial services are not used to having a school, and quite so large a school in their vicinity. So this requires a collaborative effort between the school, the parents, and everyone involved, but we are making it work.
Several donations and pledges have been made to the education system to assist in the rebuilding program. Extensive work has also been done on several schools adopted by businesses throughout the territory. The estimated damage to the territory following the passage of the hurricanes is an estimated $3.6 billion. The government is now facing the significant task of rebuilding a territory that is smarter, greener, better, and more climate resilient.
When we did the assessment of the damage to the BVI, we spoke about several billions of dollars. When we spoke about the damage to the public structures, we spoke about maybe up to $500 million. Of course, for the assessment, it suggests that it will cost even more than that, right? And so when you consider the budget of the BVI, which is $300 million, you would appreciate that, the budget cannot sustain that kind of financing to be able to do what we had to do. And therefore that money had to come from somewhere, and it has to come from loans, from grants, soft loans, those areas, in order to be able to finance the recovery effort. Of course, when it comes to taking loans, we have to borrow within our capabilities. When we borrow money, hopefully we get it at a relatively low interest rate, but it still has to be within our capacity or capability to repay, right? And if this is not sufficient to take care of all the issues that we have, then we are hoping and expecting that we'll get some assistance in terms of grants to be able to supplement what we get in loans, to be able to carry out the recovery process.
A comprehensive recovery and development plan was developed to identify the short, medium, and long-term objectives to restore the territory. The plan will also include conditions for the private sector to return to economic growth. The Disaster Recovery Coordinating Committee, DRCC, appointed by Cabinet and headed by Mr. Broderick Penn, will ensure the implementation of the development, priorities, and delivery structure under the plan.
We've identified the priorities along 5 sectors. The first is infrastructure. We believe it's critical that we get the infrastructure back up and running. That is the enabling thing that would get the rest of the country going, that would get the economy going, that would get the industries going. And this is why there's been so much focus on things like electricity and water, roads, etc. Those are the things that make up the menu, so to speak, for the infrastructure plan. The second area of priority is human and social services. And within human and social services, we're really talking about health and education. And there's a number of different subsectorial plans beneath that. Obviously, getting the schools up and running, getting the clinics up and running, housing, shelter, those type of things. The third area for priority is business and economy. And here is where we actually deal with businesses, the SME sector, the tourism sector, the financial services sector. Obviously, a number of the things in infrastructure is going to set the springboard for the economy to work. So we've been really working to ensure that we put those things in place in order to catapult the other parts of the plan, including the economy. We want to be able to create the confidence so that businesses can reinvest, so that the small businesses can open their doors, so that we can continue to hire people, so that we can find new opportunities. The fourth area that we are focusing on is governance. I think this is very, very, very critical. We've seen effectively that we need to put in place a system of governance that is transparent, that's accountable, etc. But the institutions, to be able to facilitate that, they were very impacted. So for example, the courts. In that sector, we are concentrating on a number of areas, including the government service itself, the courts, the critical services such as fire and police, prison, law and order, security. And then the fifth area, Philomena, that we're focusing on in terms of a priority is natural resources and climate change. And this is the area that deals with beaches, and the terrestrial and marine environment. The final area that we are focusing on in terms of our broad priorities relates to pride and cultural identity. We think it's very, very important that we re-establish our culturally significant assets as well as our recreation and sporting facilities. I think that's an important part of our redevelopment.
As plans are put in place to rebuild the territory, much continues to be done. Here, the territory welcomes its first cruise ship, Morella, with its 1,800 passengers since the hurricanes.
We're very happy that the group have come into the ship. Met a number of the passengers who are excited to be here. Some who've been here before. All those who said they want to really come and help us to get our economy back on track, and we appreciate that very much. But the presence of this ship today brings great joy to all of us that we are beginning to get our cruise industry back on track after Irma and Maria. And we look forward to welcoming our guests and making sure they're comfortable and happy. I want to thank all of those in the various ministries, natural resources, my ministry, communication works, tourist board, and many others, the Premier's office, who have made this possible.
More than 70% of the territory's housing structures were damaged or destroyed after the passage of Hurricane Irma, and 20% of the population displaced. However, from the destruction has risen a spirit of determination to make our BVI homes more resilient. Residents recount their experiences of that day.
The wind was really strong. It burst open the church door, and we had to try to get a string to tie the door and try to pull in the door. And then on the other side burst over and open also. But a lot of people was running for rescue. And then I rescued them because the church was given to me for me and my family, my kids and myself. And then after we tied the door, we heard somebody knocking, and then I looked to the glass above, and I saw a gentleman running back to the alley. And then I said, wow. And he said, you could take me and my family? I said, yeah. And when I looked, I just saw a lot of people running like a carnival from up and from the alley and all over. And then I had to rescue them in. And actually, we locked back the door, and then we started to receive the rest of them in the window on the side. But we had a lot of people, over 300 and something people. We had a lot of people. And we didn't have any current at the time also. But it wasn't a nice thing to speak about, because it was very terrible. Right now, I could say I find it working very fast, because at the time when the weather was there and then how the place was looking, and for now, it's a lot of progress. It's a lot of progress right now. I mean, we don't all have to try to help to walk and help out, and then the country could be much better and run a little faster.
I've sat out several other hurricanes in Paraquita, so I'm used to hurricanes, but this one, I kept tracking it and realizing it was coming right at us and was getting stronger and stronger, so I knew it wasn't wise to stay out there. I mean, it took me over a month to get out there to see my boats. One's in the trees with a mast off it and it's half submerged. The other two had water about that much above the floorboards when I got to them. I think the biggest problem is communications. I mean, they got to come up with some better system for the next time and start burying all the cable, for the power lines, because, Roadtown has power because they had done that already here, So that's one big thing I think that could really help. That and communications.
I live in Virgin Gorda, so of course, we were not spared by Irma over there either. The place where I stay, of course, was damaged. I was fortunate enough to still have my roof because I lived on the bottom floor, but the above me, they lost their roof, so I got a little bit of leaking here and there. But when I came out the next day, it was just like, I can't believe exactly what happened. Well, for the way forward, as far as I'm concerned, I think we need just to make sure that we continue getting the infrastructure up and running. I know the BVI Tourist Board and all the affiliate companies and associations are trying their best to get tourism back on its feet. Financial services was pretty much up on its feet, probably a week or so maybe after. But of course, because tourism is more infrastructure-based material, it's going to take a little bit longer. But the progress that we've seen so far, it's working. And once everybody plays their part, it'll be fine.
The government and people of the BVI remain hopeful and optimistic about the future, and with all hands on deck, we will build BVI stronger together.